Experience plus innovation. What's next for agents, FMOs, and the industry?
Welcome to the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast.
We're your hosts, David and Al Denning.
What happens when a millennial couple dives headfirst into the insurance world, scales $1 million remote business, and decides to share the journey with the world?
You get the Modern Insurance Agent.
Here, we reveal the messy, magical, and sometimes hilarious realities of building a business and a life you love.
From traveling the globe to building remote teams. Yes, even working remotely on top of a mountain in the Philippines. We're sharing insights, strategies, and plenty of laughs to help agents and entrepreneurs succeed.
Because, let's face it, success isn't just about hitting numbers.
It's about designing a life that works for you.
So let's dive in and build something extraordinary together.
Welcome back to the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast. Today's episode is something special. We're bridging generations, experience, and perspectives in the insurance world. But before we dive in, as always, we put everything together for you guys in show notes, as well as how to connect with our amazing guests. If you guys go to jumpstartgonow.com/podcast, we got it all put together for you so you can dive on in. So today I'm joined by Brian Keevan, president of Wholesale Affiliate Health Affiliate Partners on AmeriLife, along with Cameron Green and Michael Horton from Network Insurance, one of AmeriLife's fastest growing divisions. Brian brings decades of industry leadership and vision from the top, while Cameron and Michael represent the next wave of energy, creativity, and recruiting excellence shaping the future of this business. So let's dive on in. Welcome to the show, Brian, Cam, and Mike. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having us, David.
Hey, Devin. Yeah, glad to be here.
I love it, guys. We got a lot to talk about today, but let's hop into a few things. Brian, you've been in this industry since the days of Medicare Risk, before it was even Medicare Advantage. How would you describe the biggest changes you've seen over these years, and what do you think stayed constant also?
Yeah, it's been quite a ride. I don't think people realize Medicare, what we call Medicare Advantage today, it started back in the 80s. One of my early mentors and bosses in the business actually was doing Medicare Advantage in Wisconsin. It wasn't called Medicare Advantage then, but in the 1980s. So it's come a long way, and the constant has been the constant march towards managed care away from that fee for service, or what you would think of as traditional Medicare and a Med Sup. You're really seeing Dr. Oz even spoke last week. Medicare Advantage, Medicare Advantage, Medicare Advantage. Fee for service Medicare and Med Sup's still viable, still there, but it's really interesting to see the growth of Medicare Advantage. It's been an unbelievable ride. For a plan to have 100,000 members when I first started was like, oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. And today you see the big ones with millions and millions of members. I sold my first policy. I was working for the Blues at the time. Since then, I've watched a lot of those Blues get gobbled up by the Blues. But I sold my plan back in 1996. It was a Medicare Risk plan, and we sold that over the phone. And man, they had broker contracts like they do today. We were a captive agent, and so we were paid under captive agent comp plans. Some of the biggest changes in the business is, I went on to manage groups of agents. I was an agent myself for 7 years. The way you sell it, the way we sell it has changed. Back then it was convincing them, or at least selling them on the idea that zero premium plans had value. Today you're just competing zero against zero, trying to prove which one has the most value, right? It's really been a huge shift in the dichotomy in the industry. And the big things I've seen that have come along the way is certainly the introduction of broker distribution. It's brought a lot of great success over the years. Brokers really did not get introduced until 06 into 07 is when that really took off, and it really has grown Medicare Advantage, opened up distribution, provided so much opportunity to so many people. And I've just been able to work with and make so many friends and see so many successes along the way in this independent broker distribution. And it's really great. But with independent broker distribution, it brought some chaos, and we got our first Medicare marketing guidelines, is what they used to be called, back in the day. I still remember my Christmas Eve being ruined because they dropped those Christmas Eve 2008 to Impact 2009, and then the first AEP in 09 going into 010 was just crazy. So and then we've seen our enrollment periods continue to get squeezed, and our special elections continue to get squeezed. So we've got to become more creative, more innovative, and it's great that you bring us together like this, because I think the biggest thing that has also been a constant is agents, entrepreneurs, thought leaders working together to continue to further this industry and this business and the opportunity. So I'm just glad to be here. It'll be my 30th year this next year in the business. Which is great. And that's 30 years of sales. There was a couple of years of customer service before that. Even I even did claims for a while, which was interesting and really helped me understand all of this. But couldn't be prouder to have been a part of distribution and sales in this industry, and still standing. I'm still standing, David, just like all the rest of you guys.
Standing tall too.
I love it. Even across all the change and shifts. Yeah, it's incredible. And not that the change has slowed down, maybe even sped up the last couple AEPs, and the landscape's shifting and changing a little bit. And Brian, before I hop Cam, Michael, on a couple questions around what's playing out right now. You've said that advocacy needs to be a part of our daily story. What does that mean for today's agents? Yes, Brian, I'd love to hear what your thoughts on the advocacy.
Oh my gosh, the story's got to be told. I really am a believer that if you don't tell your story, somebody else will tell your story for you. That is not something new. I'm sure you guys have heard that before, and I've just learned and learned and learned over and over. We have got to tell our story. You look at what's going on in our industry as a whole, and I'm not just talking Medicare. I'm talking Medicare Advantage and MedSup. I'm talking financial and financial planning. I'm talking as an agent or an advisor. I really believe an agent is a trusted advisor. I really believe sales is meeting needs. And for our industry and our advisors that are meeting the needs of their clients and the beneficiaries and the customers that are out there, we are not understood by the general population. Whether that be the general population as in the consumers, or the general population even as our congressional representatives or our president or our regulators at CMS, they really don't understand the role that the agent plays, how much the agent does. A lot of them think that they just sell and that's it. A good agent is way beyond that and is way entrenched. In fact, I believe that one of the few people in the healthcare life side or in the health in the ecosystem, looking for the right word, is the only person that really steps foot in somebody's house, right, and actually helps them. It's such a big deal. When I say they're misunderstood, a lot of people think a lot of the stuff done for somebody on a carrier policy or plan, those services are provided by the carrier itself, and it's just not true. And we fill a vital role for that carrier as that trusted advisor and representative of their policy or of their plan to help them have a better experience on that policy or on that plan. And then, you get into FMOs, and even the agents sometimes don't fully understand or appreciate everything that has to be done behind the scenes to support their efforts and their role and their goal. So they're vital roles in an agent supporting the beneficiaries. And then who's going to support the agents? Who's going to recruit them, train them, bring new people in the business, make sure they have technology, make sure they're protected, make sure they're advocated for. I really think we should be living, breathing. Number one thing in this business is making sure that we tell our own story, or we just don't know what's going to happen if we don't.
Everybody works in synergy, but I mean, the agent is the front lines. The agent's the relationship with the insured. They're their advocate almost for the insured and find those solutions for them and guide them through a very complex landscape that's ever changing as well. And Cam, Mike, you guys are on front lines of that and helping agents with that day to day as well. Cameron, how are you seeing these same kind of themes play out at the field level? What do agents need the most right now that you're seeing?
I would say agents need the most is communications, stuff from the carrier, stuff from their FMO. something that I made basically like a deal breaker for me going into this year was I need to make sure that all of my agents have as much information as possible so they can make educated decisions as far as where to pivot in their business. Just an example is like a plan becomes non-commissionable, 2 weeks before AEP. And if you have no communication from the carrier or from their FMO, they won't know about that until it's way too late. So stuff like that is like super important for me to get out there. And like Brian said, and learning from you too, David, sharing our story on social media has really helped as far as understanding what other agents are going through so we can improve our process as well.
I love that. Communication, absolutely key, especially with everything going on. And Mike, what are you hearing from agents and from that front line as far as some of the challenges they're facing or kind of expecting to face, especially maybe this AEP?
It's really just a misconceptions on the rules and regulations, and also just not understanding the hierarchy and what goes into the back end of the business. We talk to the carriers, right? We see what comes into the commission schedules, the structures of agencies and things like that. So an example, I had an agent from another different FMO, not AmeriLife or network insurance at all, recently tell me that he was promised full commission, full layout of his agency, and then being told 2 weeks ago, he called me 3 days ago saying, hey, they're telling me I'm LOA now, and each application is only $100, and I'm only getting $70 of renewals. And I talked to him all the way in March, right? He really understood that I was looking out for him, really trying to help him. And just goes back to advocacy and trying to make sure my story is out there. He saw how adamant I was on, hey, we're the right spot for you. I don't want you to get screwed over. Like, please just try to understand that we are trying to do the best that we can for you. The other person ended up, taking him on a flight, taking him to a golf course because he was a great life agent. That's amazing as well. I said, more power to you. I wish I could do the same, obviously. But it came back to bite him, right? And people not understanding that, not understanding the back end and having that transparent support is what's really important in this industry for the agents, because not even non-commissional plans, if you're not getting full commission for what you're selling, you're not going to be what's the word I'm looking for? Motivated to even help anybody. You got to feed your kids. You can't spend as much time doing every single Medicare policy. So I think that's a big thing for these agents nowadays.
I love the analogy is agents are advocates for the insureds of the clients, and you guys are advocates for these agents and supporting them and looking out what's best. And this is a relationship industry. It's not a short-term game. And that's a great example of continuing the relationship, looking out what's for best, how to best support, and how that develops over time, even if maybe right then wasn't the best timing, but now it's like, hey, wish I would have made that change at that point as well. So you guys know the value of relationships and how important that is at all levels of this industry. And plan changes aren't the only shifts and changes that are happening right now. Tech and AI is starting to play into a lot of areas, and faster, it seems, as well. Brian, you mentioned the role of AI in both carrier operations and agent experience. Like, how do you see that playing out over the next few years?
Is AI going to replace the agent, David?
That was not asking that because I don't believe that, but yes, I mean, I'm sure there's a few
AI right now. I mean, you might be AI right now. It's taking over talk shows. I mean, I think the reality versus the movie is so crazy, right? Are the states really going to start appointing AI bots to enroll people? I just don't. I don't know. I really don't. But come on, and this is back to the advocacy on what we do and the role that we fill. I think we're a long ways away from that, but I do think we need to embrace AI. I think AI is just misunderstood. I mean, AI really is powerful. It really can take the power of information, the power of data, and even and make our lives easier. Get rid of monotonous things. We should always, the power of finding ways to get rid of the little things so you can focus on the more important or the bigger things. That's how I embrace AI. How can AI help me there? I always laugh. Cliff Notes. If you remember, does anybody remember Cliff Notes? I always think that's like the condensed. Remember, that's like, to me, the first version of AI, right? It would really just make things easier for you and condense it, and things like that. So anything, I think that, I'm certainly scared of the AI pictures and the AI bots and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know how that's going to play into what we do, because we're such a regulated industry. It's such a relationship industry. I think AI is going to impact the carriers' ability to create plans, monitor us. We need to keep that in mind. I think quality of business, as much as quantity, is going to continue to evolve. I think how we present plans, how we compare plans will continue to evolve. But I also think how agents go after their block of business and work with their clients is going to continue to evolve. I think AI could help agents determine who's at most risk, who's in most need, where there's opportunity even to potentially sell more products. And we can talk about the future of this business, and as our enrollment periods continue to condense, as Medicare Advantage continues to become saturated, I think Medicare Advantage agents need to be looking at using AI to better mine their block, to better support and be close to their block of clients, and also look at meeting additional needs of their clients. I think the one thing I would love to challenge all Medicare Advantage agents to do is learn to sell more of the Medicare Advantage, right? And maybe AI could help us in training and finding those needs and even presenting those products. So I would just close by saying we need to learn to embrace it, not worry about a robot taking care of, taking over for us and selling, and taking away our business. I just think that's absurd. And it's coming, though. It's coming 100%.
I absolutely agree with that, Brian, that it's not so much about replacement of agents, but those that do use and leverage technology, AI being a piece of that, will win out against those who do not embrace and leverage. Kind of like internet for embracing leveraging internet back in the day. But I also agree that it's going to be over a long period of time before ever that could happen, just also because of risk mitigation. I don't see a lot of carriers and organizations looking to move away from people and now put this in the hands of, well, who's ultimately carrying the risk if something, gets communicated incorrectly, or if this AI goes off the rails on that side. So definitely more as a tool. I love all the examples that you mentioned on that, of ways to use and leverage it and still keep that human touch.
AI is only as good as you reminded me when you said that, as good as the information it's pulling from, and so it could make mistakes, and it's just not good enough yet. So, just look at Wikipedia. Can you always trust Wikipedia? So it can change and move and things like that. So I think that, though, it could really help agents be more guided, and potentially be able to do more. And that's what I think. But quality, AI, it's coming. We are going to be expected to continue to elevate not just our quantity, but the quality of the business that we write. So we need to embrace this.
And speaking of what that looks like for agents, Mike, you and Cam are in the trenches every day. What's your take on AI and automation? Is helpful, overhyped? How are you guys maybe even leveraging it yourselves?
Honestly, I think it's a great advancement on training, making sure that people are educated, and as well as making sure that people understand plan documents and what they're signing up for. For example, Cam made a great point the other day that, hey, let's just have the summary of benefits be summarized by the AI to be like a 6th grade reading level, and also put the prompt of being, hey, make it so it's understandable for someone that knows nothing about insurance, right? Now you have a really good tool that can make sure your client actually knows what they're getting themselves into. And if you want to become a referral resource for your client as well, say, hey, I'm going to send this over to your daughter, send this over to your nephew, right? They actually know what the plan is now. Make sure they have your contact information on top of that. And the daughter and nephew are impressed because they're like, oh, I'm not talking to someone that is talking about deductibles and max out of pocket or co-pays. I don't know what that stuff is. They could explain it in a way that a kindergartner can understand it now, right? And when we're talking about training, even though you can ask AI questions just like Google, you could also ask AI to not give you the answers, right? That's a huge thing that people don't think about. Say, hey, I want to understand more about this topic. Don't give me the straight up answer. Give me questions to help me realize the answer, right? And that way you actually tie the topics and the different things into something that actually makes sense in your brain. So then you intake the information better. And just doing things like that could really evolve the industry as a whole. It's just like you can't do the push-ups for somebody else. That person has to figure out the prompts, figure out what helps and what does the best things for everybody, and then do it themselves. So
I wish you could do the push-ups for me, Mike, because you could definitely do way more than me. But no, also a big fan of. I'm also a big fan of the Socratic method. So I love that. Yeah, using it in a way to further your understanding of knowledge versus just give me answers, right? And I think one of the biggest things, especially with insureds, agents as well, but insureds not understanding pieces of how their policy works or how this works in regards to their health, and being able to explain it clearly to them. It's interesting to be, as the agents are developing these relationships with insureds and knowing them, throughout that process of what they love, what they enjoy, and maybe even being able to tie that into how it's explained. Oh, they're a baseball fanatic. Hey, awesome. How do I explain this policy using these baseball metaphors that make sense for them? And it's also something they love and enjoy. Can you imagine an agent communicating in that way to a client? That client's there forever because of that. So I love those examples of using it as a tool. Cameron, how do you with this? We're talking about tools. We're talking about leveraging this for efficiency, but the human touch and the human relationship connection is so important. How do you balance using modern tools, AI as well as other technology, while maintaining that human connections that agents are known for and valued for?
Um, I would say the biggest way is still connecting with people, like you said, on things that they like, things that they enjoy. And there's really never going to be an AI that's able to do that on a human level. And like Brian and Mike were mentioning, I see it more as like a amplification tool. Like people say that money amplifies your personality. Like the AI is just amplifying your work ethic at the end of the day. So if you're someone that, like Mike said, you want to learn more about the topic, you just don't want the answer, you could have it even give you a whole instructional course like, hey, I want to learn about annuities, just the basics so I can explain it to my clients on why it'd be beneficial to them, and probably spend 30 minutes talking back and forth with an AI, and at least you have a game plan of attack when talking with a client.
I love that.
Yeah, the human touch is it kind of goes back to just sharing your story at the end of the day. Like your personal experiences are going to resonate more than a story you made up with ChatGPT, even if it is someone else's story.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And being able to tie and weave that in naturally. And that is somewhere where AI can help us maybe communicate more effectively. Like, oh, I forgot to use some of my past stories. Like that would be really great to be able to communicate this. Can you remind me of my story of catching a fish and how I can turn that into something I'm communicating with my clients? And so we've talked about the agent level and insureds, but all that help support just rolls up at all levels that are really tied together of accomplishing helping insureds with this. Brian, you oversee partnerships across AmeriLife's entire health and distribution. How do you keep culture and alignment consistent when across such a massive organization and companies?
Oh man, relationships number one. They need, like, yeah, what you were even talking about. I mean, the thing about, you talk about AI, you talk about call centers, you talk about email. It's all impersonal. Nobody wants to work with you. I mean, David, like meeting you was everything, right? I mean, it really changed my comfort level in coming on this podcast, right? It really changes everything. So get up out of your seat, get up out of your ivory tower, get out there and right. I mean, there's like, I just am so irritated when people want to manage from an office. I'm an agent. I'm a licensed agent. I get my license. I feel the pain. I even get out there and sell or help sell. In fact, I walk somebody through their 2025 benefits and their options for 2026. And I don't sell them. I just help them. And I actually direct them and give the sale to an agent, which is crazy because it's not what I do. And I believe in people, stay in your lane. My role is to work with all of our leadership. I work for them, and we think of them as affiliate partnerships because if they're not leading, we're not growing. And my job is to support their leadership. So getting up, getting out there, and listening. You've got to listen. I'm a big believer in a sales process, and if you don't have a sales process, you need to get one. And I know, Cam, you and I talked about the sales process, and it was introduced to you recently, and I hope it's starting to help you. It takes time, but the main point, and people always ask, Brian, how do you close, right? All of these affiliates, how do I sell more? How do I close more? Can you teach me that? Well, first, it starts with a process, and it starts with preparation, humanizing and listening. And then the sale or the closes come easy, right? So really just making myself human, working on listening to them for their needs, listening to what I teach and preach, and actually practicing that, right? And listening to what they need, and the last thing I would tell you, David, is come up with priorities. Get out there, observe, see what their challenges are, see what they're dealing with, see what the real world is presenting, listen to what they're saying, and find out what the priorities are and focus on them. All the rest is great, but all the rest is noise. When I talk about advocacy, when I talk about bringing value add to the agent and the agencies, when I talk about fighting for them and for agents and agencies on what they do and what they need, that's where I keep my focus. And if I'm doing that and I'm supporting their needs, they win, right? And if they win, I win. And I've really found that whether when I was at the carriers, fighting for our markets and our agents and our distribution there, and I love, like, I found my home here on the distribution side. Like, this is the place, right? I love it. And fighting, but we're still fighting for the carriers, though. If we don't care about the carriers, we don't have product. Does everybody understand that, right? But then we also have to fight for our agents and our agencies and our team members, like, Cam and Michael, we would be considered we would definitely be team members. So that's really my role and my focus and what I focus on to try and be successful. I would say in closing, I always think about books I've read and little nuggets I've picked up from mentors along the way. But if I'm not putting people in a position to succeed, right, then I'm not doing my job. Because if they can be put in that position and they're successful, because you can't tell people they need to succeed. That's not going to work. But if you can put them or fight for them to be in a position to succeed, you think about your own success, right? It's about being in the right place at the right time with the right work ethic, with the right help, right? And, voila, right? So.
One area I did want to highlight out of what you just mentioned too is almost that empathy and being able to put yourself in others' shoes of their concerns and where they're at. And you mentioned the carriers, right? A lot of agents like, oh, this has gone non-commissionable or these carriers make changes. But if the carriers don't adjust or make sure, like we lose our whole ability of what we're selling in our whole industry. And this applies at all levels, agents understanding their insureds, agents understanding the FMO, the organizations understanding from the carrier's perspective. It all works together. And if you only put yourself in your shoes, you're going to miss out on all these relationships and working together.
You nailed it, David. I mean, if I could just take a moment, if you don't understand the industry and you're just understanding you're missing out. Like, no wonder you're complaining and bitching and moaning and upset and unhappy because you're not a part of the solution because you don't really understand what's going on. I mean, you got to remember, we are a part of an ecosystem of providers and carriers, right? And clients and beneficiaries and government regulators. you need to really understand the ecosystem and not just your little world where you're making your commission, because that's how you make your living. Don't think it's always going to go. And so these providers were under fire in COVID and coming out of COVID. Then it put the carriers under fire, and and now we're feeling the pain and the strain. I really believe this is, and I've talked to a lot of people in the industry, this is an era of correction, meaning we are going to go through this. It is normal. I've been around long enough to gone through other eras of correction. We got fat and happy on this great run, and to think that it was just always going to be, amazing. So I don't think this is the new trend. I do think this is a correction, but yeah, I mean, we need to be change leaders. We need to be a part of the solution and a part of the message and a part of the advocacy. And if we've got to understand, the carriers aren't after us. The carriers are fighting, and they need to fight for themselves, right? So we continue to have something to sell, and they need us, and we need to make sure they need us, because we are their independent distribution arm. So, and we need to make sure we do right by them as a partner.
Absolutely. I love, and continuing the conversation on culture that we were talking about there is Cam. You guys have built an incredible culture at Network Insurance. What are you guys doing differently to make it such a close-knit, high-performing team? And I'll be honest, like, I've met a lot of the Network Insurance team. I love your people. I love your personalities. I love just spending time with you guys, maybe even playing a little basketball with you guys. It's incredible. But yeah, tell me a little bit of how do you guys really encourage and develop that within your FMO?
I would say it starts with the leadership at AmeriLife as well. Like people like Scotty Elliott or Bobby Beige or Brian Lubin, even Brian Keevan, they're all servant leaders. Like he said, he'll go out into the field, understand what the pain points are actually for the individual agency, and see, okay, I'm seeing this similar problem across this many people. How can we solve this first? That trickles all the way to our leadership with Joe, where Joe and Hassan, where they have meetings with us monthly, and not always is it, hey, you're not performing on this, and hey, you're not doing this. They'll just ask you about how your life's going, how your family is. So just genuine caring from the leadership, which I haven't seen at any other company I worked for, to be fair with you. Like most of the managers are like what Brian Keevan said, they'll stay in their bubble, tell you, hey, you need to do more of this, and then that's about it. That's their management.
I love that. I love servant leadership. I think best form of leadership, right? Best way to lead. And with speaking of leadership and some of the challenges, I mean, in both of you guys being, younger blood in the industry, which it very much needs, and absolutely love. Mike, what have you learned about leading peers and agents who are same age, or let's be honest, in a lot of cases even older than you? What does that look like, both for the agents?
Honestly, we're in a industry where we try to solve problems the best we can. So quite honestly, like talking to even older individuals, a lot of them are retiring, man, right? Like a lot of the new agents that we talk to, we really need to make sure that we adopt the industry to be a good agent environment, right? We don't teach the wrong things. We don't want to teach hustle first and client last. We want to make sure that the client is put first at all times, and it's important for people, right? I believe that as of right now, in terms of being a leader, it's really making sure that when they're put in a situation where they have to make a choice that could impact the client, we're making sure that the right choice is the good choice for them at the end of the day. Because quite honestly, we could say, hey, even though this plan that's non-commissionable is actually going to save them a lot of money, save them a lot of headaches and things of that nature, we might as well just put them on it and next year hope there's a change, right? It's not the best thing that you always want to hear, but at the end of the day, we have compassion and conscience. And if what we encourage or what we allow, we encourage, right? If we allow everybody to say, hey, we're going to put them in a really bad plan at the end of the day that doesn't fit their needs at all, just because we want to make an extra buck, that's not a good example to put. And it's just what our leaders at AmeriLife want to make sure that we understand too, right? Like Hassan for example, asking about our family, asking about what we want to do in our lives, right? Our goals, our dreams. That's something that we are really haven't gotten at other establishments. And I talk to my agents all the time, and you, for example, where in other FMO environments, it's really how much money are you making? How many apps are you selling? That's all they really care about. And if you're not really selling, they're not really going to pay attention to you. Going and starting in this industry where Brian Keevan is saying, "Hey, what's up, Mike?" And I'm making jokes with him about dunking the ball because he's like 6'8", LeBron size, So we're having fun. If he knew that I wasn't selling, he wouldn't just walk past me and never say what's up. He would still say, "How you doing, man? Like, what's going on?" And that's the type of leadership I want to put for the people that are coming into the industry, and just the older individuals too. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, but we still keep trying with just honesty and transparency at the end of the day. So
Love it. Like we keep saying, relationship industry, right? And not treating each other as numbers. Wish that was the case throughout the entire industry. But that's where organizations thrive that are developing those relationships and putting that in place. And moving, kind of talking about, yes, what is we're talking about right now, and some of these changes and things being put in place, but also what's changing over the next few years. Brian, you've seen the full cycle of Medicare market and beyond over the years, which you just talked about. What trends are you watching most closely right now, and any advice for agents and leaders preparing for maybe the next 5 years?
Yeah, we're in that phase right now of correction, as I talked about. But there's also some uncertainty at the government, level, at the CMS level. It was great to hear Dr. Oz talk a lot about Medicare Advantage, but we all know Medicare Advantage isn't always the solution. I think we still need MedSup. I think you've got urban versus rural. I don't think there's one solution for all. I'm really on the lookout for the stability of Medicare Advantage, and our ability to sell and sell year round, and be able to make a living doing this. That's why I said earlier in the program, hey, agents, Medicare Advantage agents, you need to learn how to sell other products. You're not selling hospital indemnity, if you're not going back through your client base and looking at hospital indemnity or life. By the way, I'm 55 years old. No agent has ever asked me about a life insurance policy in my life, which is crazy because I probably would have bought
hey,
one.
man, we could talk after.
Get on that.
Come on, man.
We didn't know about that.
So it's a perfect example of back to the set. Just ask the questions. I think that the agent needs to evolve. I think the FMOs need to continue to evolve. We need to continue to understand our carriers are going to continue to evolve. I talk about the quality element. It's going to become increasingly important. We also need to make sure that we are policing our own business, bad actors and bad practices, and or somebody is, not only is somebody going to tell a different story than our story, somebody is going to make determinations on how we do business for us as well if we don't take care of it. So I see this this business that's somewhat matured but isn't quite there yet, needs to continue to mature and continue to evolve. So I'm really looking out for the stability of the carriers and how many carriers and what products we have to sell and when we can sell it, and the evolution of the agent supporting those products, those carriers, and those beneficiaries. If you're not talking to your client about life or indemnity, what about like annuity products or other types of investment products even, or having a partnership with somebody to help? You're not really taking care of that client, right? So many agents just want to sell them the MA policy and go to the next one, right? I really think we've got to, and I really think we should see us to continue involved there. And I think technology is going to really help with that, giving us more tools, more access to more products. You think about Connection and Sunfire, I think those are pretty common terminologies in the business, right? And for those of you who are not from the business, enrollment platforms, I think it's really transformed our business and transformed an agent's ability to access multiple products, more than one, two, or three. And I think those types of products will continue to evolve and bring more services, more product, and hopefully even more connectivity to what's going on with your clients. So that's really what I see happening and what I see evolving over time, over the next number of years.
Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate that. And there's going to be changes with carriers and policies and technology, but also people. So, Brian, what stands out to you about working with rising leaders like Cam and Mike?
Oh man, I think we need the young people, right? I love to see the energy and the enthusiasm and the optimism, and sometimes the flat out lack of knowledge of the bad that's happened. It's good to see, like you gotta, it's like a quarterback that throws an incomplete pass, man. It's good to have people that don't remember that or don't know about that, right? So I appreciate these guys because they fire me up. We need young people, but I appreciate Mike saying, the old people too. I mean, sometimes the old people can be just even more energetic and more valuable. Do not, what is it? Don't judge the book by the cover type thing. I mean, find the people that have the passion, the energy, because it's the people that love what they do that do the best, right? I don't care what age you are, but we do need to be bringing people into this business from. Man, I recruit all the time. I brought 2 teachers into the business over the last couple of weeks, hooked them up with one of my agent friends, right? And said, you need to talk to them and get going. Now, I hope they make it. I bet you 1 or 2 does, right? But hey, but we need to be finding, ways to bring people into our business, that new blood, but also reinvigorating or re-energizing those that are already here and continue to support. So I love to see the likes of Cam and Mike because, we need that, and we need that fresh blood. I've been around for, I think I said it'll be 30 years. As far as I'm concerned, it's been 30 experiences. Every year is different. And I found I am learning more from the young than I'm learning from the other old like me. I think it's so important to have that mix and those different views.
I love that. And so Cameron, Mike, I'm gonna have you both answer this. Cameron, I'll start with you, and then Mike on this. But also following along with what Brian both mentioned. Just mentioned, what's something you've learned or been inspired through this partnership with AmeriLife, with Brian, and then just off what Brian mentioned too, being younger and getting this industry, how do you think we can encourage more of the younger millennials and Gen Zs to hop into this amazing industry, but they maybe just don't know how amazing it is?
As far as younger people, I think there's like 2 sides to it. So there's a major issue with like attention span, just because we grew up on social media, we grew up on I Uber Eats. Like I don't even need to leave my house to get food anymore. I just get everything instant gratification. And this is a business where you might not see money for your first 3-4 years. Like you might not be stable until that point when you learn the reins, you learn an industry or product, and you start feeling comfortable with it. And it's for younger people. I think what me and Mike, our biggest initiative as far as like going forward is education. So just making that more accessible, because there's so much information online on YouTube, on different courses you can buy. But there's never really a centralized place where you can just understand a sales process, like Brian Keevan was saying, and understand the products all in one place.
I love that. Thank you, Cameron. Mike, same question. What has it looked like working with AmeriLife? Brian, also, your thoughts on, bringing more of the younger generations into this industry, especially as a lot are, maybe retiring out over the next years.
I would say right now, in the time and age that we are currently, a lot of people are losing hope in just being entrepreneurs, period, right? They have to see the reality that over time, with consistent efforts, you can really build something up that gets you out of the 9 to 5 of McDonald's or Taco Bell, right? It's a crazy job market for some people at our age group right now. And I think they need to just really find that inner belief. And that's really the hardest part. And having them invest in their own mind that, hey, People have been successful before me. They've also had challenges before me as well, because once you hit that first challenge, that doesn't mean to give up. That means you just got to overcome it, right? You only lose when you completely give up, right? You're just learning at that point. So getting that through the heads of the younger generation is hard, right? And honestly, it's the education, the information, it's everywhere now. There really is no excuse for the younger crowd, in my opinion. It's really just, to me, I feel like the belief for some people to go out there and say, hey, I can actually achieve this, get 100 no's in a row and not give up. You get what I'm saying? That's what really kills people in this industry, especially when they're starting out. And just knowing that if I dedicate myself to the sales process, dedicate myself to learning systems, CPAs, prospecting master classes, understanding how to package things and to maximize the lifetime value and just building relationships. There's a lot that goes into it. I feel like sales, insurance, roofing, solar, it's its own sport, man. And if you sit there and say, oh, I'm just going to work on my crossover for your entire life, you might be really good at your crossover, but you can't even shoot. How are you going to score, right? Like, that's a good basketball reference, but it's applicable to sales as well. If you only focus on one industry, like just Medicare, as Brian was saying, and you don't focus on cross-selling, you're ruining the lifetime value of what you can actually extract from your clients from doing a good job. You're ruining everything like that, and you're limiting yourself. And then when you limit yourself, you don't realize how much money you are actually losing out on, right? So just getting all these things, and for the young crowd to understand that it's not an easy occupation. It's not something that's going to be immediate. The instant gratification kills a lot of people in this industry starting out, and that's why the turnover is so high.
Yeah, but I think there's so many people that don't even know this opportunity exists,
Exactly.
right, Michael?
Yeah.
I mean, that too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I had anything to add as well, just personally, I struggle with this as a younger person and just someone that likes to over plan. I think just taking everything one step at a time is like a daily reminder. Just 'cause you can get caught up with the weeds, and like Mike said, there's a million things you can do. You can start out in the business warm market, just working on referral partnerships. You can join David's group and learn how to market on social media. You can door knock, cold call. There's so many things you can do, but you just need to commit to one thing and take it a step at a time.
Yeah. I was
I
going to
love
say
it.
something too. Sorry, we're hitting our hard stop here. But honestly, when me and Cam got into the industry, it was more so excuse my French, fuck it, let's do it, man. Because he loves to plan, and it's great. He keeps me level headed, and I'm more of a gun ho type of guy. Like, hey, let's just do it. Because at this point, if we think about it too much, we're not going to do it ever, right? And he knew that. We both balance each other out on that point, and that's how we got into the industry, man. We learned about the opportunity, just like Brian was saying. Some people just don't know about it, and I know my friends know about it. So if they're watching this, I know you know about it, right? But this podcast and all these other things, right? It's trying to get out into the industry for the young people. Really think about it like this. As of right now, the ratio is like 15-1, right? There's 15 people for each insurance agent. In the next 20 years, I believe like 20%, 40% of the older people are going to retire and stop doing insurance, right? That's going to be half of them. It's going to expand to about 30-50 ratio if people don't keep joining, right? If you stick with this industry and you stay in it, it's going to expand, and you're going to be one of the only people in it, right? Unless we solve this problem with people being scared to join the industry. So it's important, man. That's what I can end off with.
Well, that's why we need you, Michael, to get them, you, David, you, Cam, get them comfortable with the industry, right? And get them going in this business. It's important to have people that can do that. And it's not just the young people, like I said, there's retirees, there's people that are just underappreciated. I can't tell you enough how many teachers have just excelled in this industry because they can do their teaching job and get going. And I mean, and don't give up, right? As an agent, it takes a good 3 years really but once you get there, man, but you got to get there, right? It's a grind. So but we need people. We need more people like you guys. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Cam, Mike, if you guys can clone yourself a million times, that would be great. It's such an amazing industry, being able to help people while growing a business at the same time. What more can you ask for? I look forward to many more conversations, guys. I really appreciate your time, especially during a busy time of year, for joining us. But for those hey, Cam, Mike, Brian, I love to connect. I'd love to plug in. I'd love to chat, follow you guys. Where's the best place for them to connect? Cam?
So it'd be Cameron Green on Facebook or LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to find me.
Yeah, it'd be
Perfect.
Michael
Mike?
Horton on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. I would give my phone number out there, but I don't know who's going to call me. You can email me at mhorton@NISHD, stands for Network Insurance, and you could also just ask any questions that way. But I appreciate you, and Brian Keeman, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Brian and David.
Thank you guys. Be an entrepreneur is what I would close with. You say people are afraid to be an entrepreneur. My best piece of advice, if I was to, start all over, is think and be inspired and be courageous enough to have that entrepreneurial spirit. That's the number one thing I would tell everybody. So go build something, go do something. So thank you, David, for bringing us together.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Cam. I really appreciate your time so much. I appreciate everybody for joining us on this episode of the Modern Insurance Agent Podcast. If you go to jumpstartgonow.com/podcast, we'll have the notes as well as those links on how to connect with everybody there. And we'll catch you on the next episode. See you then.